Hello and welcome to our backyard here at RedLeaf Designs. Today we're going to talk about how to measure a boat for a storage or a transport cover. It's a pretty simple process. It takes about 15 minutes. The first thing you need to do is get your boat into a space where you can work around it. And importantly, get your boat up off the ground. We're using boat stands here. We could use folding chairs or picnic table benches or sawhorses. There are lots of ways to get the boat up so that you can work around it. This is just what we did today. So the first thing we'll talk about here is what you need to do to get ready to take the measurements. The first and most important thing is to have a copy of our measurement guide. This is going to walk you through exactly what we need measured. Step by step. It has, in addition to the instructions, it has fields to fill out the information. You can print this off and fill it out on paper. You can also go to our website and you can complete this online if you want. We have this as an online form under the resources menu on our website. So that is thing number one. You'll also need a tape measure, and the tape measure needs to be long enough to measure the length of your boat. You'll need a fabric measuring tape like this one that's long enough to wrap completely around your boat. If you don't have a fabric measuring tape like this, you can buy one at almost any sewing store or any craft store. Walmart should have them in the sewing section. You can also, if you're in a pinch, you can also use a piece of string and measure the boat with a piece of string. You wrap that around the boat and then you measure the length of your string against your regular measuring tape. There's a lot more opportunity for error there, so we recommend getting a tape like this. You'll need some painter's tape or masking tape, and potentially, depending on how you trace your bow and stern profiles, you might need a Sharpie and a large piece of paper, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But that's about it. Once you have those items gathered, you're ready to get going. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is actually the bow and the stern profiles. There are three ways that we can get the bow and the stern profile. And when we talk about the profile, we're talking about this right here. It's the shape of the bow. And what we really need for the bow and stern profile is a nice close photograph or a tracing, or depending on the manufacturer of your boat, we may be able to use the pictures that they have on their website. So if there's a chance we can use the pictures on the website, we'll let you know that. If they don't have a good profile picture on their website, we'll need to get it from you. So the easiest way to do it is to take your measuring tape. And again, this is all covered here in this packet. The easiest way to do it is to take your measuring tape and put the tape vertically against the bow so that we have a scale. We need to be able to see the scale so that we can size this in real life size scaling in our computer programs. And then you need to take a picture that's down low. You don't want the picture to be up high because then we can't see the actual bottom of the boat. You don't want it to be angled from the front or the back because then the perspective is wrong. You really want the camera to be at about the height of the middle of this hull. So you can start here and just come straight back, and this is the photograph you would take. We'll show you an example of that in just a moment. But it's really important that the camera it's probably going to be lower than you think it should be. It's going to be about the height of the middle of the boat, if that makes sense. So your camera is going to be like right here. And then you can either email or text those pictures to us. If you don't want to do it electronically like that, you can also trace it and use snail mail and send it to us. So I'm going to step out of the frame for just a moment here, and I've got a big piece of paper that I've taped to a piece of cardboard. This could be newsprint. This is just butcher's paper in our case. You could use the backside of a piece of wrapping paper. But you can also trace this by putting this behind the boat and using a Sharpie and just doing this, right? And this gives us what we need. So there's the bow. And we really need that tracing to go from the tip of the bow down here to where the boat becomes flatter. Don't stop here where the bow is still curving at the heel of the bow. It needs to go all the way to where it transitions into the flat hull. So you can also do this and mail it to us. This is our least preferred option. We much prefer either getting it from the manufacturer or having you take a picture of it for us. Those are the two better options. Okay? So once you've done that, let me set this down over here. Once you've done that, we get into the actual measuring of the boat. And the first step in measuring the boat is to get the length of the boat from bow to stern. And that's where this tape comes in really handy. We're going to take a piece of this painter's tape and I'm going to put it at the stern. Then we're going to take a piece of painter's tape. I'm going to carry it up here to the bow. And I'm just going to hook the measuring tape right to the tip of the bow. And then I'm going to tape this down right over the top of that tape, or right over the top of the measuring tape. So this is now held in place. If this boat does not have recurve, right? So the farthest forward point of the boat is actually the tip of the deck. If this boat had recurve, if it was a classic style boat that the bow came out here and then came backwards, that's called recurve right there, you would want the tip of this tape even with the very front of the recurve, not the tip of the deck. So in that case, this tape would be hanging off the deck and it would be even with the front of that recurve. Regrettably, I don't own a recurve boat, so I can't show that to you. But you would need to make sure the front of this tape was even with that recurve. As you stretch the tape backwards, and this is why I have this piece of tape ready for me back here, you're going to run the tape way past the boat and lock it off and then just let it drop to the ground. You're going to take this tape, and you don't want it stretched. I mean, you could stretch it perfectly tight if you wanted to. It's also okay if it sags a little bit and follows the curve of the boat and rests on the gunnels. It's, you're only talking about the difference in actual length is only 1/4 of an inch there. So it really doesn't make too much difference. I generally let it rest on the gun or on the thwarts. And then we'll use this piece of tape that I had ready back here and we'll stick it right there. So now we're ready to write down measurements. And in my packet, the first thing it's going to ask me for is the overall length of the boat. And in my case, that is going to be 149 3/4 on this beautiful little hemlock mayfly that David Yost sent to my son Calder. So I'm going to write that down. I said 149 3/4, so I'm just going to write that down right here. All of these measurements are in inches. I should have filled out my customer name, my boat manufacturer, and my boat model, but I didn't. So I've got the boat length now. Now we're ready to begin the hardest part of this measuring process. We're going to begin at the bow. Again, we're taking these measurements in inches, and we are going to measure 2 different measurements for every foot from bow to stern. And the 2 measurements are this. The first measurement is going to be the full circumference of the boat. So I'm just going to take this tape, put it underneath my main measuring tape, and I'm going to measure the full circumference of the boat. Now here at the bow and the stern, you do need to be careful that this tape doesn't walk forward up the rake of the boat. If you do, you're going to get a measurement that's too short. You want this tape to be truly vertical on both sides of the boat. Okay, so it's truly vertical. It's square here at the 12-inch mark. And in my case, the full circumference of the boat at this point, at the 1 foot mark, is 37 inches. The second measurement we need is ready and waiting for us right here. It is 29 inches. What we're looking for is the measurement from the start of the tape right here, the top outside edge of this gunnel, around the boat to the top outside edge of the opposite gunnel. So it's a U-shaped measurement. That's 29 inches. And then again, the full circumference at this point would be 37. So now we're going to go to 2 feet, and I'm just going to slide the boat forward a little bit since my boat stands are in the way. But as I get to 2 feet, I'm going to repeat the exact same thing. Again, making sure that this tape is nice and vertical. It's not walking forward. Making sure that it's square. It's not skewed at the 2 foot mark. It's nice and square. And in this case, my measurement is 44 3/4 for the full circumference. And I've got 31 1/2 for my hull measurement, which is that U-shaped measurement. Now, I'm not actually going to repeat that process for every foot mark on this video, but you would simply do that from bow to stern. You're going to start here at the bow, you're going to go all the way to the stern, you'll get the circumference, and you'll get the hull measurement at every foot mark from bow to stern. Okay, that's the bulk of the work here. Now, after you've done that, and after you've either filled out this form or you've put those numbers into the online form that we have, you also need to get the widest point. We need those exact same measurements at the widest point of the boat. And that's not always going to be right at a specific foot mark, right? So on this boat, I got a 6 foot measurement mark here and a 7 foot measurement mark here, but the widest point is actually right here at 79 inches. So I would repeat that process at 79 inches, and that tells us what the widest point of the boat is. And again, that didn't fall directly on one of these foot measurements, so you need to pay attention to that and give us that measurement. If it does happen to fall on a foot measurement, if you have a 16-foot boat and it's exactly widest at 8 feet right in the middle, just write it down for us anyway, even though it's going to be the same. You can write it down even though it's the same. But most boats, it's not going to fall quite so neatly on an exact foot mark. So the next item is your carrying handle or thwart tie-down opening. And that is going to be right here. The front part of this boat is going to be fully enclosed in what we call the pocket of the cover. And we sew a slit into that pocket so you can reach through and grab this handle, and so that you can tie a bow line to this handle when it's on your car. So we need to know where the center of this handle is. And in this case, the center of the handle, it actually looks like it's 15 and 7/8. You can be that precise if you want. You could just tell us 16 inches here and we would be perfectly fine. So we would say 16 inches for that carrying handle or the tie-down opening. And I would write that right here or put it into our online form. And next, let me just turn the page. We have this big box that says, is there anything else we need to know? If you have a rudder, if you have fishing mounts that stick up, if you have anything else on your boat that is not stock or not standard, we need to know, and this is where you would tell us. If there's anything else special with your cover that we need to know about, this is where you would put it. And that really is it. The hardest part of this for most people seems to be getting those bow and stern profiles. If you have any questions about that, just give us a shout and let us know. Otherwise, that's it. When you're done, you just take the tape off the measuring tape there, and that's it. So send us those measurements. We can make a perfect cover from measurements that come out of that packet. We do need to make sure that all of our customers understand that we need you to fill out exactly what's in this packet. I'm actually going to redo this because a bug flew in my mouth. That's just gross. And that's it. It hopefully didn't take you more than 15 minutes to take those measurements, including setting the boat up. It is important that you complete the packet in its entirety. If there's extra information you want to give us, please feel free to put it in that back section. But please do make sure that you give us all the information that we've requested. We'll be able to make a perfect pattern if you complete this packet the way that we ask you to. Pay attention to things like going from bow to stern. Don't go in the opposite direction. All of those things make a difference to us because of the processes we have in our shop. Once I get this information from you, it takes me about a week to make a pattern and add the boat to our online library. At that point, we can go ahead and take your order. I will say that it's preferable that you do not place an order for a boat that is not yours. Don't place an order for some other boat model and then put it into a note that it's actually for the boat you're sending us measurements for. That can cause mistakes in our shop, and it can cause you to get the wrong cover. We need to make sure that you wait until your boat is listed in the library. Once you've finished taking all these measurements, if it's on paper, you can mail it to us. You can also scan or photograph this packet and either email or text it to us. And if you've completed the online form, which is how we prefer to get the information, if you've completed that online form from the website, it will just automatically go into our inbox and we'll have everything that we need. So that is it. That's all there is to taking the measurements that allow us to make a perfect pattern for your boat. Thanks so much.